Hi, my name is Michelle and I'm a grade 2 teacher in South Korea. This documents my students' learning journey using the National Geographic World Food Resource, as well as my own experience with the resource and my use of the framework. Hope you enjoy. Chocolate. A South Korean person above the age of 5 is likely to consume an average of 607 grams of it over the course of a year. My South Korean students who are 7 to 9 years of age fall into this demographic, but during a recent math lesson on data collecting, I found out that they had no knowledge of where chocolate came from. As far as they knew, all food just came from the supermarket. Having just finished a unit on sharing the Planet Food Resource continued the theme of responsibility for the health of our planet and its natural resources. The idea was to help my students discover the ways they are connected to countries around the world through the food they eat. After all, being in an international school, we pride ourselves on developing global citizens. I wanted them to be able to see the impact of the decisions they made on the environment, animals, and people in real time. We started by reading a book about chocolate, and then collected information on a collecting grid. This gave students some basic information, but the Planet Food Resource posed more of a challenge, as students had to think critically about the information they were hearing from the videos and make choices based on what they were reading, considering different values and points of view. Which one did you pick?
First one.
Okay. Juliana, what did you pick?
In the shade.
So it sounds like people chose in the shade. Why did people choose in the shade? I also asked the students to recount the steps of the chocolate making process to see if they understood how the different processes were interconnected in order to get the beans from equatorial countries to South Korea, given that Korea does not grow cocoa trees. At this age, it isn't often that these students get a chance to make decisions of their own, and although they did find it challenging, many also found it a fun and empowering experience. Learning more about the choices and hearing why others made their choices made them think, and helped them decide if they wanted to stick to their decision or reevaluate if they heard something they hadn't considered from their peers. Have a think about it. If you are making more pods, that means more money. But you might also be spending money trying to keep away pests and trying to find new ways to keep away pests. And this one you might get less money because you will have less fruit, but the environment overall will be healthier. Now that you've thought a little bit more about it and heard both sides of the argument, does everyone still want to stick to their answer, their choice?
Yes.
Someone who wants to change?
Me.
Aiden, you want to change?
Uh,
Okay, why do you want to change?
Because in the full sun the cocoa tree will grow more, but in the full sun there will be a lot of bugs in the trees and things. So if the bugs or other things eat it, then it will be not healthy.
These students surpassed my expectations, not only recognizing the impact of fertilizers and pesticides on the land and animals, but also making connections to things they had learned in previous units, such as people consuming the food containing the chemicals and it being bad for human health. And most surprising of all, they actually pointed out that the use of electricity was using up fossil fuels and creating pollution, when what they read from the World Food Resource was actually focusing on how it would impact the quality of the beans. Even though it costs more, you guys are choosing to go organic. Why though?
Because if we do use better quality,
let's hear from Aiden first, and then we'll hear from
laser, then it will kill bad chemicals, but it will hurt. It will hurt the environment and the cocoa thing, and then it will harm the people who are spraying.
In the sun, because we would be kind of wasting the electricity whenever we're using it.
In their own words, this is what the children understood about their impact during this experience.
Using less pollution. So I chose to do bringing the choco pots to the local produce center, I think, and that would be putting it only in that area country. So I'll be like driving the boat, bus, car.
Okay, great. So selling locally produces less pollution, as these beans do not need to be transported.
No, I think I did the good because in the shade, the bugs won't come, and then it has less, but it is like you don't need to kill the bugs.
I will go with organic to even though it's more expensive, it's fine because even though it's more expensive, it if you use fertilizer or something else, that it damages both the environment and the health, and it will be bad for the environment and the health, and we all have to stay safe. So if I go organic, even though it's very expensive, it's still gonna be good. And also, I want to dry it in the sun, and think fair trade is a good idea.
Since this lesson, students have been more tuned into the global perspective because they weren't just reading the information like they normally do, but now understand the value of the food they have access to and the arduous journey it has taken to get to them. Now, I see these children consider the interdependence of humans on the natural world and vice versa. They know that it isn't good to harm the planet, but up until now, I don't think they fully understood why. Because my lesson focused on responsible decision making, they started questioning themselves and others why they make decisions they do. This resource has prompted deeper inquiry. Some students stayed to talk about the changing etymology of the word cacao into the cocoa that we know today, and one went away and read up on the history of chocolate, resulting in this poster he made to share with his classmates. It was also wonderful to see their sense of justice in wanting to ensure that those producing the food they ate were treated well, both financially and health-wise. One student hadn't realized there were different types of chocolate and is now very fascinated with milk chocolate. She and her family have made plans to acquire fair trade ingredients to make their own chocolate during the summer break. As for me, it reinforced that awareness of issues is created through experience and doing, something we have not admittedly been doing as much of because of online learning. As English language learners, they are often reluctant to read and answer questions, but using the resource in conjunction with our literacy helped engage students and introduce global issues like sustainability and equity, and it made it more relatable for students because they were empowered to consider not only how it would impact them locally, but the human and natural world in other countries. I don't think any of us will ever look at chocolate the same way again.